This is the Instant Speed Podcast, episode number 46. Our guests today are all three members of Team Dragon Shield. That would be Tariq Patel, Matt Rogers, and Nick Butcher. And of course, the Instant Speed Podcast is brought to you by FAB Cards. FAB Cards is the place to go for flesh and blood, but also all your other trading card needs. Get all the tools you need to navigate the world of Wraith, shipped straight to your door. Go to kfabcards.com. That's www.kayfabecards.com. Yes, our guests are Tariq Patel, Matt Rogers, and Nick Butcher. But before that, we got the facts, and we're going to start off with the fact that, hey, the Calling Singapore is in the books, and the winner was Jason Zhang on Dash, running that aggro Dash in the Talishar. Wonderful, wonderful weapon. Don't have one. Need one. Will get one. But Dash wins the Calling in Singapore, and that top 8 featured 4 Briar. So how does this impact the Pro Tour in France? We're going to discuss that with our guests today. And the Pro Tour Lille is happening this weekend, starting on Friday. So much going on. Lots of people are going to be there. It is the place to be for Flesh and Blood. So make sure that you are tuned in to various channels and other media entities who are going to be broadcasting this. You can check out fabtcg.com or at fabtcg on Twitter, and they will keep you updated as to where you can consume all this great stuff. September Armory kits have been announced, and they are beautiful. The Cold Foil Waning Moon for all those who want to complete their Cold Foil weapon collection. Great stuff coming from the Armory kit for the month of September. The Fall Brawl in Columbus in October 22nd to 23rd, if I'm not mistaken. There's a great tournament that's going to be happening there, and I'm hearing rumblings that it is going to be a big deal. So you definitely want to be there. 10K on the line for this tournament. Lots of side events, cosplay contest, and also the Speakeasy, which is an all-you-can-draft bar scene VIP kind of situation, and I've got a ticket to give away. It's a $100 ticket to get to the Speakeasy, and I've got one to give away. All you got to do is create a card like this one. Hopefully my producer did this correctly. Bing! Right there. If you can make a card like this one, a Flake hero, and tweet it out at me, and you're going to be in Columbus, we'll hook you up. Finally, thank you so much to our patrons. Again, I say this all the time, but it truly does mean the world to me. The support that you guys show me really helps with just the miles and miles and miles that I have come is on your generosity, on your support. So thank you to our patrons. You can go to patreon.com/instantspeedpod. For as little as $1 a month, you can give me a pat on the back that says, I like what you do. So cheers to you guys. All right, we have Tariq Patel, Matt Rogers, and Nick Butcher on the show. We're talking Pro Tour Lille. This is the Instant Speed Podcast, welcoming 3 members of Team Dragon Shield, returning with more hot takes as the U.S. national champion. That would be Tariq Patel, alongside former, I guess, world number 1, Matt Rogers. Yeah, you can.
Former, yeah, all right.
I mean, it's we deal with the truth here. That's our currency, as well as Nick Butcher, all of whom are entrenched in Lille, preparing for this weekend's Pro Tour. Welcome back to ISP. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. I feel good. I've been in Europe for a couple weeks now, so finally getting used to the time zone change. Wasn't easy, but yeah, feeling good and enjoying Europe.
Yeah, man. I went over to Singapore for the calling before, and just got in here, so sort of still adjusting to all the time zones. But we did a bunch of drafts today. I taught Tariq a bunch of stuff last night. I think we're in a really good spot.
That's good. And Nick, you just as confident as the other two?
Yeah.
Just slide it in there. All right. Well, arriving in France early is, I guess, part of the deal here. I'm just curious, when did you guys arrive, and what have you been up to now, I suppose, and just leading up to, I suppose, Friday when things kick off?
So I think I arrived the earliest. I originally flew into Amsterdam over in the Netherlands about a week and a bit ago. Since then, we've been kind of traveling down through Europe, we being my girlfriend and I, Amanda. So we started in the Netherlands, ended up in Belgium, and we just got to Lille, actually, this Sunday night. And we've been at our Airbnb since.
And the rest of you, I suppose, I mean, Matt and Nick, you were both in Singapore as recently as a couple days ago, so you guys just kind of have the competitive juices still flowing. You've had one hell of a primer, and we're going to get to Singapore shortly. But I just wanted to kick in real quick here because last week we had a discussion about Blitz at Worlds, and I know that we're leading up to Pro Tour here, but I just want to get a quick take because I know Tariq, you had an opinion as well as I'm curious about Matt and Nick as well. What are your thoughts about Blitz at Worlds? Does it have a place? Is it a competitive scene? What are your thoughts about Blitz at Worlds?
So I have mixed feelings on it. At the end of the day, though, I'm not LSS, and I like to kind of focus on the game as a player more than as a developer. So whether they say I have to play a random 3-card draft format or Blitz, I will play it either way. For me personally, if you're asking my personal opinion, it is not my favorite format. I think there is a higher level of variance in the format compared to some of the other formats in this game right now, like Classic Constructed or Booster Draft. And I think it's a bit of a fallacy to kind of point at players that consistently do well and say, look, this format is actually low variance, when in actuality, if you pair up multiple people that are doing well in the format, there is going to have to be a loser. So it's not my favorite format. It wouldn't be my first choice for a pick for a format, but I'm not completely unhappy with it, and I'm going to play regardless. So it is what it is.
And how about yourself, Matt?
Yeah, you really did want to know. Before this interview, we were like, all right, if we get the Blitz World question, Tariq, you're taking it, right? And you're like, hey, I'm going to ask this to each of you. Make sure you get all 3 opinions there, right?
I gotta get you on there, buddy. I mean, I know that you've got hot takes and such as well, but I mean, you can easily dodge this one, and we can just move on.
No, that's fine. I think I like personally. I think I'm pretty similar camp to Tariq. Blitz isn't my favorite format. In fact, I've barely ever played Blitz. I played a Blitz calling and like maybe a couple of other events, and that's it. So personally, obviously, I'm going to prefer a format that I'm more versed in. But I think there is a lot of feels bads that come with Blitz. If you're playing a world championship and you're 10 plus rounds into the event, and you've been grinding, you're doing really well, and you're in a good spot for top 8, and then you die on turn 2, and that happens a couple of times in the last couple of rounds playing for top 8, that's going to feel pretty crap. So personally, I would have avoided the format just because of those feels bads. But yeah, end of the day, they pick the formats, they put them out there. I'll get them there and test for it and give myself the best chance I can and just go for it.
No, you got no choice, right? It's there. It's got to be done. But I hear what you're saying, and again, a lot of the sentiment is just that it's people just don't like the format. It's not that they're perhaps dumping on it because it's a low skill a low skill format. Yeah, there's a higher level degree of variance to it as well, but ultimately it's just a reality. You gotta buckle down. Nick, are you prepared for Blitz? Is it something that you're adept at or you're happy with that it's going to be at Worlds?
Yeah, Blitz is fucking mad. You guys are crazy. People here talking about, oh, Blitz is all variants. They haven't played Uprising Draft. Uprising Draft is trash. Whatever, man. Blitz is sick. I'm down.
We should have had you on last episode. I don't know why I wasted my time with people like Logan and Zach. You came with the heat, buddy. I like this.
Yeah, Nick always comes with the heat. I think Nick only dropped like one game last Blitz calling, right? So Blitz kind of almost is one of your formats.
That's all right.
Well, there you go. And it's well positioned as like the last 5 of the actual tournament in Swiss. So you can actually kind of cruise through and secure things if you're good at Blitz. But the last snapshot that I want to talk about is actually it's the Calling Singapore, which 2 of you were at. Tariq, you weren't there, but ultimately post Uprising, Singapore was the first major litmus test about what the meta is going to sort of turn into. Everybody had their local armories or their testing groups or whatnot, but this was the first time on a big stage with big stakes that people are coming to the table with decks that I don't want to say matter, but are tried, tested, true. What is your opinions? And this one is actually leading into the topic of Singapore. Colin at Reinar Mains says, 7 of the 16 top 8 spots, be it from Battle Hardened and the Calling, were Briars. 4 of half of them for the Calling itself were Briars. Did this catch you off guard? The top 8 and what it was populated by? No Guardians that were there. No Prism was in the top 8. 4 Briars, 5 Rune Blades total. Is this something that you anticipated? Did this catch you off guard a little bit?
Not really. And I kind of talked about it a little bit on Twitter and in the article I just wrote on Channel Fireball. If you kind of looked at the week before and kind of the Battle Hardened in Portland, Prism was a little bit more overrepresented than what you thought it could be. So naturally going week to week, it's natural for an aggro deck to kind of bolster the metagame if Prism and these slower kind of grindy decks are present and around. So the fact that it's aggro decks kind of taking over this week, I wouldn't even be surprised next week if we see an uptick in Guardian. So maybe Prism will be the place to be next week. I know Yuanji, I apologize if I mispronounced his name, but I think he even went on Twitter when somebody was saying, Prism's horrible right now. He said, I actually think I'm going to be playing Prism next week, or it's one of my top decks I'm looking at. So it's kind of like a circular kind of thing where I don't think it's surprising that, aggro decks were the deck to be at in Singapore. With regards to your question about specifically Briar, I look at that as just kind of a variance thing. If you actually look at the top tables that people were posting all throughout the weekend on what was around the top tables, there was a pretty even split among like Viserai decks, Briar decks as the 2 aggro decks. And to me, it's just a kind of a statistical anomaly that all the Briar decks kind of ended up in top 8 and all the Viserai decks fell short. Because at the end of the day, is there a huge difference between somebody that goes X2 and X3? We don't know the situation of their wins or losses. So I'm not going to draw too much from that one statistic alone.
Yeah, one thing about Singapore is that there's actually quite a few people that were XO constructed with Dromai, but just
multiple people, right?
Went
X3.
They just went X3 in draft and then in top, so they didn't get talked about much.
That's fascinating to me. And again, I wrote an article for FAB TCG, and I mentioned, one of the biggest parts of those major tournaments, especially like leading up to Pro Tour, is that draft is going to expose a lot of people, and you can just absolutely crush it in Classic Constructed. But if you go into draft without any reps, without not knowing what the hell to do, and just drafting the best cards that you think are going to work out, you might actually get completely gooned. And if what you're saying is true, which that's the case, is the fact that some people went 6-0 and then absolutely just sputtered out and fell off the table. That's very telling to me. But as well, there were some I think there were some 7-0s or some perfect records with a FI that went through day one as well. I mean, so ultimately, I think what I was most surprised about wasn't that Dash won the whole thing. It was that I thought that FI would be the nucleus where everything else was essentially built around. It was the focal point where everybody had it on their radar, where they wouldn't bring a deck that couldn't beat FI. It's either you bring FI or you bring a deck that beats FI. What was your impression of FI at that tournament? Because I really truly believe that it still is a very, it has a high ceiling. It can really bust out a lot of damage. It's not as fragile, let's say, as Katsu combo lines. It's a little easier to piece together. However, the one FI that was there, I think, maybe rattled a few people out there in the community who thought that it really was the deck to beat.
Yeah, I think, specifically the guy that went undefeated, his FI list was very, very different. He caught a lot of people off guard because they just didn't understand what his deck was trying to do. I think he was playing like 9 even bigger than that. It was a crazy list with all these on hits, and like FI doesn't usually play a massive amount of on hits. They're more of like a heavy damage deck, right? He was, kind of like wolf in sheep's clothing, right? Like he was trying to pretend he was something else and, playing Kadachis and stuff when he was and that caught a lot of people off guard, specifically in day one. But FI is just a very consistent aggro deck, so I was expecting there to be quite a lot. It was interesting that by the end of day 2, there wasn't a huge amount in the top tables. kind of hard to know. But I think ultimately Fi is still a very strong contender. It's a very good deck. It is a real consistent aggro deck, and you do need to have a plan with it. I think exactly what you're saying. When you were going into this event, you needed to have a plan against Fi. You couldn't just play a deck where you're like, well, Fi's the matchup, I'm going to give up, because there's still going to be plenty of it, and it's still going to rise to the top. And I think that's still the case even now.
Nick, did you have any thoughts regarding what that top 8 kind of shaped up to be versus what you may have anticipated it to be? Were you caught off guard perhaps by not just the Fi player, which Matt, you said, I looked at that deck list. It was just completely foreign to me. I was like, this is not anything that I've ever seen in terms of, 9 is bigger than that. Yeah. You look through the yellow, the deck list and in the yellows, and you're like, okay, there's some yellows in here. Where are the Art of Wars? There's no Art of Wars. It's just even bigger than that. So it was quite odd. But Nick, for yourself, what was the most fascinating matchup that you had, and what was your impression of the top 8 versus what you expected it to be?
It's actually what I expected it to be, which is why I played Oldham, but I just got paired versus Prism, so it is what it is. What's my most best game? I don't remember what my best game was.
Most fascinating game, maybe the Dromai one.
Yeah. It was kind of like a ruling kind of soured it. I got Fi, and then against Fi with Oldham, I play Coronet Peak. So on my turn, I'll Coronet Peak, force a card, then Ice React, force a card, and then eventually I'll draw like disruption cards because Oldham plays a bit of Chaff Blues, and they can't really function on 2-card hands. So and I just crushed him. But yeah, it's just I wish I played against his aggro decks, to be honest. Like, I only lost to Prism.
Well, that's kind of come to be expected. But ultimately, overall, no Guardians, no Prism in the top 8. Is that a bad sign, or is that merely just a flash in the pan when it comes to one particular tournament, one particular meta? Will that shift? Do you anticipate Guardian to have a resurgence, for Prism to have another kick at the can at Living Legend at this tournament? And beyond that, I also want to ask you, is Dromai the successor to Prism in terms of kind of keeping control in check? What do you guys think about that?
It's to be seen, I guess. I haven't played or tested Dromai quite a lot in Classic Constructed. I was very high on it at the beginning part of the season, but it quickly showed some very key flaws in it. One, the dragons themselves being very susceptible to on-hit triggers meant the aggro decks ate it alive even harder than they ate Prism. And 2, it had a really bad Prism matchup in of itself. Because of the way Spectre Shields lined up with your whatever the Dragonlings are called.
Ashwings.
Ashwings, yeah, excuse me. So, that enough was enough for me to kind of put the deck aside. But, once Prism rotates and one of its bad matchups kind of leaves the format, I could definitely see a place for Dromai going forward. And I actually didn't know that Dromai did so well in Singapore, so that'll be something I pick their brains about off camera later. But it sounds like it could be a real deck, but for now in an open metagame, I think it has one too many holes for me to think about it as a serious contender.
No, is Guardian poised for a resurgence in France? Because Singapore, like we mentioned, it's the impact of Singapore is not just seeing what the meta is; it's how everyone's going to adjust in this week. And my impression is that, you showed up in France. You were on the plane well before Singapore even happened, and I don't know what you can possibly bring with you in terms of actually adjusting, or even if that's the case. But how early on, A, are you locked into your decks, and B, seeing something like Singapore, do you think players have enough time to pivot or change or adjust, or is that just going to be detrimental? Like, at what point does preparing for France at what point does Singapore impact your preparation for France?
Matt, do you want to take that, and then I'll jump in after?
Yeah, sure. I think for us specifically, it meant that we're probably testing Briar a little bit more than we were. That probably hits up at the higher peg. Now I think that, the deck the deck probably just deserves a little bit more respect than maybe we were giving it beforehand. We kind of picked Viserai as like the premium Runeblade deck, and now I think it's pretty even between Viserai and Briar for our testing. I think that's the our Dash definitely changes some things. The fact that Dash won the tournament means that that's part of our testing as well. But other than that, I think it was mostly as expected.
Yeah, and just to elaborate on that, I don't think the metagame kind of changed too much.
No.
We talked about it before a little bit about when you looked at the top tables and took a larger view of the forest from just the trees themselves. It looked to be exactly what you kind of expected, and just the fact that aggro wand might mean that Guardian is slightly more represented than it may have been if this tournament never existed. But overall, when we prepare for bigger tournaments, we're preparing for every deck, and there is always going to be an aggro deck, there is always going to be a Guardian deck, and there's always going to be a prison deck prevalent in that format. Now, whether those ratios change, is may change one or two cards in our sideboard, what we kind of hedge against, but overall, I think our game plans are going to be roughly the same as they were pre-Singapore. So it's not like I was panic messaging, mapping like, grab me this, grab me that at a vendor, but I think it's like, oh, this is interesting. How do we adjust what we're looking at to fit what we've just seen?
So for you, Nick, let's say you're preparing for a tournament like this, like on the scale of a Pro Tour. At what point are you just adjusting things like sideboards or matchup testing versus actually switching the deck entirely or switching heroes entirely? At what point does something like this just become an extra hurdle versus an entire change of your philosophy or your approach to the tournament itself? Are you the type that just kind of locks in as well? Like, and how far ahead do you allow yourself, or do you lock in a deck, and how close up to a tournament do you particularly allow yourself the sort of the latitude to shift one way or another, or can you adjust on the fly like that?
I don't know if I can say I've looked at my deck yet.
Yeah, that's all right.
So for the record, this is going to be published on Thursday. So if anybody's listening to this on Thursday, it's probably to your advantage that they start second guessing themselves the day before the tournament.
Last minute.
Yeah. So this is published on Thursday. Currently, we're recording on Tuesday the 23rd. So you guys got two days of sort of mystery before this publishes. So Nick, you can spill all the beans if you want.
Yeah, you probably don't want to say the exact deck you're playing, but things that you locked in a month ago or whatever, I think is fine.
Yeah, I've been locked into the same deck for a while. I think a lot of people aren't going to change decks at Audible that hard. From what happened in Singapore, like people expected Briar, Dash is another aggro deck. Well, that guy's list was, like it's just very standard stuff, and I don't think people are gonna deviate from their deck choice. If they had two choices, they probably pick the one that they think has a better position. But the people that are already saying, "Oh, I was gonna play Briar before, I was gonna play Viserai before," aren't gonna change decks.
So now that we're moving into France again, Singapore's well in the past. Uprising has had a month and a half or so to sort of gestate and live in people's minds, and really drafting is what many people have done. We've practiced, you and I, Tariq, I've been to your place. We've practiced. You've practiced a hell of a lot. Everybody's been practicing. A lot of the armories are draft. The RTNs are draft. Draft is such an important element. And I know a lot of people are not very fond of Uprising draft because it's this three horse race where it seems to me that the initial, approach to it, the initial, book of how to draft Uprising has shifted a lot early on, but now it seems that a lot of people are saying that if you just force Fi, like you're probably in a better position than being one of two Icelander or one of two Dromais at the table. If you just force the aggression, you're probably ahead of an average or above average Icelander or Dromai. What to you is the strategy going into draft, and is the whole force Fi and you'll be okay a valid argument in this format?
So that's a really interesting question. I think we need to take two steps back to maybe dissect it a little bit, and then I can answer the question. I actually think Uprising is an amazingly well designed set. If in a vacuum, okay, if you take any given good deck of Fi, Icelander, or Dromai and pair against each other, there is an even chance that either player could come out victorious if their decks are on the same power level. Where it falls a little bit short in practice is that the packs are probably, 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 cards short, in the set itself. So it's not like it was previously with Tales of Aria, where there was a clear tier list of heroes that were like just better than the other. Like towards the end, especially after the errata to Briar, Oldham was just like tier 0. You could probably just force it and always win. And it's not like that in Uprising. Any good hero can beat any other medium hero. So if there was 3 more cards per pack or whatever, I think this would probably be one of the best draft sets of all time. I myself, I don't force anything. I like to still, people ask me that when we were drafting Uprising, what's your strategy? And to be honest, I still don't have one. I like to simply read what cards are coming to me, and then if there's a clear signal, I'll take it and go. Because I really do believe any good hero drafted will still beat any medium deck of another hero. So for me, it's not about just forcing one hero. I still like to try and read a signal where possible, even if it means I have to play like 2 or 3, lower tier cards. As long as they're pitchable, that's usually fine in my book.
Somewhere out there, Dave Rude is just shaking his fist at you and saying, "No, just force." Absolutely, just he's in his Tesla, shaking his fist at the cloud and saying, "Force Fi, damn you!" How about you, Nick? In terms of draft strategy, and how do you feel about Uprising draft as a format in general?
Shit.
I know.
It is. I don't care.
No, honesty is the best policy over here. A few more. Yeah, you've definitely broken the swear record on the podcast. That's definitely up there. So congratulations to you. It's all good. We're all adults here. It's all good. But so you don't like the format, but much like the conversation we had about Blitz at Worlds, a lot of people don't like it, but it's a reality. And preparing for it, it's just like eat your damn vegetables. They're there, and you have to do it. So, are you approaching draft as a situation of, well, I'm just going to position myself well and get a perfect CC record where I can go 1-2 or 2-1 in draft and still have a chance?
I mean, that's the best strategy, I think. That's why people like to force Fi. Like, they'll just get a decent 2-1, maybe 1-2 in another one, and 8-0 constructed if they have like the nuts deck. But I don't know. Uprising does have so much crap in it. Like, Read the Ripples is a crap bobble. A lot of the yellows are just not good. That's why people force Fi, because at least if you get a yellow Ronin Renegade, that's still a good enough kind of card. Whereas I look at yellow's Rise and I was like, oh, yellow Cold Snap, wow, I'm cheering right now. This is great. It's just not happening. And then Matt,
I don't know. Matt, voice of reason. Come in here, Mr. Enthusiasm. Save this one.
I can't do it for you, Flake. I think
try.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. This draft format, I think Tariq hit it pretty nail on the head there. It's a few cards short, which means that you do need to commit a few cards earlier than you would some other sets. You're not able to really play a table very well. You're not able to kind of understand and strategize and position yourself in draft like you are in Map, for example. So yeah, I just don't think they quite got the draft format right, and I think it's exactly what Nick was touching on in terms of Fi. Is like all of the Fi yellows are playable. None of the yellows from the other 2 classes are playable. So like, it's very easy to have a medium Fi deck. You can just force Fi and you'll always have a medium deck unless there's like 5+ people on the table also doing that, which is extremely unlikely. So I think if you don't want to 0-3, that is a realistic strategy. And I think, 50% of the time you're going to 2-1 or better. So I'm not a fan.
All right, last up regarding the Pro Tour here is there was a draft that occurred amidst some of the content creators. First overall pick was Dalen Mack, selected by Dalen Mack. The ultimate flex, honestly. And it was just funny because he got the first overall pick, which I had second overall pick. And when he chose Dalen Mack, I just said, okay, so I have the overall pick. Like, thank you for that. It's just an absolute freebie. I took Isaac Crute. Amidst you three, amidst Team Dragon Shield, Tariq went earliest amidst all 3 of you. Matt Rogers went right before I got to select him on the wheel back because it was a snake draft.
You didn't get to table me?
I was like, how is nobody taking Matt Rogers? Because Tariq went in early in round 2. Matt Rogers went, I think you were something like 14th 14th overall or something like that. And I had the 15th pick, and I was just so upset that you went. I took my Polish buddy, Maciej Janik, but Nick Butcher not on the draft board. Nick, how does this influence you in terms of motivating you? Does this just light a fire under your ass now?
Who were the people picking?
There was Dale. There was myself, Dale and Mac, Tommy Fresh. There's a whole bunch of people that you can get mad at. I'll send you the list. Absolutely. I'll sell them all out.
A bunch of nobodies. Wow, I can't believe I wasn't picked. I can't believe their opinion means so much. I could not care less about their opinion. I don't even know who these people are.
He's thrilled.
I don't know who these people are. So,
Nick's very passionate.
Yeah.
I know. I was gonna say Nick is just gunning for that heel category for the post game interview when he's like, "I told you all of you nobodies, just told you all." I love it. I love it absolutely. All right, before we just wrap this the part about Pro Tour here, I just want to hear. I want from each of you. A hero you believe is going to surprise and a hero you believe is going to drastically underperform.
Surprise. Give me a second to think.
Yeah, if anybody wants to jump in first, if you got the answers, by all means.
Maybe Dromai, because it surprised me.
That was my answer.
Yes. I didn't even know it did that well in Classic Constructed, so we'll have to have a discussion about that after. Disappoint. Probably Oldhim, I would have to say, just for the same reason that Nick did so poorly in Classic Constructed in Singapore. There's no matter what you think about the metagame, there's still probably going to be, a third of the metagame is going to be Prism, or there's always going to be a high amount of Prism no matter what you do, and having that high of a percentage of bad matchups in the field just doesn't bode well for the deck. So I would say Oldhim is going to be disappointed.
Matt, you said Dromai right off the bat. You can stick with it. You can pivot to something else as the surprise. But,
all right, I'll pivot. This is an Uprising draft. We're right. I think Icelander. I think Icelander's got some legs to it, and I think people aren't expecting it, and it's going to have kind of similar to the dash effect of the calling, where people just won't understand how to play against it. Icelander won the Battle Hardened at Singapore. It was like over 200 people or something, and Icelander won the whole event. So CC event. So hey, I think Icelander is going to catch some people off guard and overperform. And I'd like to say that my nemesis, I think Prism, is going to underperform. I think Prism sucks. I think people are going to bring some Prisms, and they're going to get smashed by some Briars and Viscerize and Thighs and just about every other deck, and it's just not going to quite have a good time. I mean, I'll probably be proven wrong. I have been many other times. There's been times where I've said to Tariq, I just don't think Prism's very good in the Starvo format anymore, and then it keeps winning anyway. So I'm sure I'll get proven wrong, but I'm going to stubbornly stick to my guns and say that's my thoughts.
And how about you, Mr. Positive?
That's a eunuch.
Nick is just silent here. All right. Well, we'll take that as everything sucks and nothing is good. We'll just that's a bumper sticker by Nick Butcher for sure. Nick's in screensaver mode, but it's okay. We can surmise. Let's cruise through. Last thing is the meme. The meme of Matt Rogers, which I have to say. This is pure immortalization, Matt, and this goes beyond.
It's not how I want to be immortalized.
No, probably not. It looks like it honestly looks like you're attending a Nick Butcher seminar about Flesh and Blood, where all the negativity is just piercing through your skull and into your soul. Ultimately, now there's two ways to be immortalized by memes. There's the Pheno Black way, which is you do it yourself and you force it for 10 consecutive weeks about a tunic trigger. The other is the community does it for you, and you're immortalized this way. These are great. Can you just walk us through what snapshot in time this is from?
I have no idea. So it seems to have been after a match or something. I was sitting there just thinking. I guess I have a resting sad face with thinking or something. Like I was deep in the tank thinking about something. Maybe I don't know, trying to decide how I'm going to explain this thing to Tariq that he's never going to understand. So, yeah, somebody I guess snuck up and took a photo of me, and then that photo became a bit of a thing for people to poke some fun at me. But it was good. Like I think some of the memes I did crack up. I did find very hilarious. So there was some good ones. So. Overall, yeah, I'm happy to be laughed at a little bit here and there.
Yeah, it's good, and it's like, again, it was all done in good fun. People love you, Matt. So these are all the more. My favorite one is the Simpsons one. That's just me.
Yes.
There's no fire escapes in this gay bar. You're just sitting there with like your hands on the table. It's just so good. All right, we've got one more segment. It's called Go Again. So we will be right back shortly after these messages from BCW Supplies. Instant Speed is proudly supported by BCW Supplies. If you need protection for your cards, be it sleeves, deck boxes, storage, organizational tools, or hey, are you a comic book collector, a coin collector? BCW Supplies has your hookup. Use the code ISP10. Get 10% off all of your orders. Go to bcwsupplies.com. BCW, protect, store, display. All right, it's time to go again on a series of questions with Team Dragon Shield. That would be Tariq Patel, Matt Rogers, and Nick Butcher. Again, rapid fire. You guys can either, you guys can pass, decline, but one of you at least has to answer. You can all answer if you want, but here, let's start with number one. Who is the captain of Team Dragon Shield?
Probably Matt. That way, if any bad decisions are made, I can blame Matt.
All right, I'm good with that. This one coming from Sam George at Stone the Crow on Twitter says, do either of you read? And if so, what are some of your favorite books? I would imagine that literacy is definitely in your repertoire, but reading for leisure is something that, some people don't do much anymore. But for you guys, is that something that's that you enjoy?
There you go. You're more passionate about reading.
I used to read a ton of fantasy when I was younger, the Dragonlance series and so forth. More recently, I read more, not realism books, but, House of God was the more recent one that I read a couple months ago that was really good. And I try and kind of keep up with more realistic stuff now, so bibliographies and so forth. So I've kind of transitioned from like fantasy to like real world or more practical application reading. But yeah, I'm a big passionate reader.
Matt, you just besides the memes, what else are you reading?
I read Tariq Patel articles. Facebook posts. Started reading tweets.
Nick, anything other than My Chemical Romance lyrics that you're reading, or is it just what do you got going on?
I like fantasy. I like the Scientology books, all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
I dig it. Nick is slowly becoming somebody that I need to have on the show every week as like
you cut the part where I actually break, because I need to keep character. I need to cut out the part where I actually laugh.
I need a segment where it's like, okay, let's cut to Nick for the BS meter, and he just lays into somebody who's just spewing garbage. Oh man, I need a Nick Butcher like button where he just appears and says, no, you're garbage, you're trash, you're wrong. All right, this one's from DM Armada. What are your favorite cookies?
I'm taking it. I think this one's not close. I think anybody that doesn't agree that a warm chocolate chip cookie is not the best cookie in the world is just incorrect.
White macadamia nut for me.
I don't know. Cookies are all nice.
Equal opportunity cookiest. I like it. After the podcast a couple days ago, I think it was, where Matt messaged me. You messaged me and you said Oreos over chocolate chip cookies. What are you, stupid? Like there was some honest venom in that message. But it was nice to see.
Oreos over warm chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah,
you're just
Oreo's
wrong.
not a cookie.
Yeah.
What is this? What is it? A sandwich? Like, what do you call it?
No idea. It's something. It's not a cookie.
All right. This one from Fabled Academy. Will we see EU Europeans dominate the finals of the PT in Lille again, like it was in New Jersey?
No. That's it.
I'm good with that. I'm all right. We can just end it there. That's the other bumper sticker. It's just no dash Nick Butcher.
Stupid question.
Nick's my new fave. It's sorry guys. Nick's my new favorite.
Yeah, fair enough.
This one from Chris at Blue Plunder Run says, what's the current state of Belittle Minnowism package? A month ago, some people were saying it needed to be banned or was about to be banned, but no one in the top 8 CC decks from the Calling or Battle Hardened in Singapore ran it.
Yeah, you're part of this propaganda. You answer this one.
I actually really, so I think Belittle Minnowism is one of the most interesting cards developed by LSS. The power level on it, I think, can be high, but it comes at the cost of a very a constricting deck restriction. So I think, the turns that it creates are very good, but you pay for that power level in your deck building. And I actually hope that LSS prints like more interesting cards that has deck constraints but has a higher power ceiling, so that we can explore and adjust and tweak our decks with foreseeably weaker cards to get a greater sum benefit. So I actually think it's fine for now. I think it was at its best in a deck like Chain that would just naturally run a bunch of 3 attack cards, and then you can play them for free because you banish them off Soul Shackle. But right now, I think it has a place in the metagame. I don't think it's completely exploitable, and I actually really like the combination of cards, and I think it does some really interesting things for the game.
All right, this one's from me. There's a Flesh and Blood movie. Somebody needs to play you in the movie. You need to cast the other 2. Who plays each of you in the Flesh and Blood movie? Now, you can't cast yourself. So, Tariq, you got to cast Matt Rogers and or Nick, and so forth. So, who plays each other in the Flesh and Blood movie?
Matt would play me.
Yeah, I would play Tariq. For sure.
No. I was thinking
off.
like actual actors and celebrities. Like, Matt Rogers would be played by...
Sorry. Cal Penn would play me.
Are you right? It's like...
I don't have to think about that.
What about Nanjiani? Kumail Nanjiani?
No.
I guess like if you want to get like the ethnicity correct, like you're kind of running out. It's like then you go down the list and it's like, okay, Aziz Ansari, and then what? Like, and then are we just out? Like
run out of brown actors, yeah.
Danny DeVito could be a good you.
Oh, Jesus.
Nick, which one of the Hemsworth brothers is gonna play you?
No, Robert Pattinson would play me.
Moody, broody, tall, lanky white guy. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Would play me, Nick.
Who's the guy that's from Fantastic Beasts?
No, Jesse Eisen, whatever.
Oh, Jesse Eisenberg?
Yeah, the guy who played Mark Zuckerberg.
Man. I could maybe, I guess. Like, man, I had one in my head for Matt Rogers and now it's completely gone. I don't know, Daniel Day-Lewis. Because frankly, you need the right character actor to portray the enthusiastic, very talkative, and energetic Matt Rogers, but also the brooding, thinking at the table, getting his picture taken like a paparazzi style, brooding Matt Rogers. Like, we need somebody who has that kind of range. But I think it's or like Benedict Cumberbatch. I think that's pretty good as well. That's just me. Okay, some random dude named Cale McCreath sent in a question saying, I'd like to know how they prepare for an expected meta for a big event. When looking at the general meta, do they target key players and try to predict and build based off of what those players are likely to play? If so, who are some of those key players to watch in Lille? So, preparing, are you guys like factoring in just individuals when you're preparing as well? And if so, who are those people?
No, I don't think so. I think it would be very wrong to just like hone in on a couple of people at an event that big. I mean, like there's just too many teams and individuals and talented people and stuff from all around the world. It's hard, and nobody knows exactly what people are going to do. Like, different teams are going to come up with different things. So I think you'd be, kind of failing yourself to spend time and effort trying to guess what people are playing and then, build, strategize your plan around that, because you're only going to play against, 12 people out of 300 or something. So it's just, I don't think that's a winning strategy.
That sounds a lot to me like you three are the ones that people should be paying attention to, that you guys are the pinnacle of the mountain when it comes to flesh and blood competitive play. So maybe that's what it is. Plus, who knows? Maybe Kale's just trying to figure out, get some free advice that you might be hiding behind a Patreon or something. It's like, really? All right, then. This is a free way in to some significant information. Finally,
and
this
he's trying to bait us to say, yeah, I think Kale's going to be playing Bravo, so we should hear about that.
Everybody pay attention to Kale's Bravo.
That's my number one favorite to win the tournament, though. So
oh, yeah, you picked that, right? You put that on an article.
And I do believe that. I do think Bravo's well positioned, and Kale is the Bravo master. So if there's any time to shine, it's now. So, shout out to him. Let's see what he can do.
I'm trying to see who picked Kale. In the Logan Peterson of the Flesh and Pod podcast picked Kale in round 1 to win the Pro Tour. So some good mojo there. Last one. This is from me, and it's what is the ultimate flex you can do when playing on camera?
Crack bubble on the sideboard.
I suppose, but I mean that people will dig that up based on deck lists that are submitted. You're on camera. You're at the feature table. Matt Rogers a couple weeks ago mentioned that slamming down a perfect 10 gem mint frostbite token graded when you swing with Winter's Wail, I feel is that is an ultimate flex. What would be your ultimate? Yeah, just slab it over there. Pull it out of a briefcase that's handcuffed to your wrist and then just put it on the table. What to you is that ultimate flex?
I'm not a showboaty kind of guy, so I've never really thought about it.
No, you go.
I was going to say, I winked at a camera once while on feature match when I was swinging for lethal, but I think that's about as far as it goes.
Sitting there stone faced like this.
Yeah, that's a pretty cheeky move, though. That's like a Patrick Waugh kind of I gotcha kind of move there. Nick, you must have something up your sleeve.
Winning.
I guess that's an ultimate flex. And then in the post game interview, you can just crap all over everybody in the most Nick Butcher.
I'm definitely not allowed to talk on an official LSS stream.
Okay. All right. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that has been our Pro Tour Roundup pre-game show, I suppose you can call it, with Team Dragon Shield. Again, these are 3 names that you absolutely want to keep a finger on in terms of the pulse of the game and the competitive scene. Tariq Patel, U.S. national champion, multiple calling winner. Matt Rogers, former world number 1, as well as Nick Butcher, man. This is just a murderer's row of excellent players. We are all going to be tuned in very adeptly to see what you guys are doing. Any parting shots or sort of shoutables before we sort of cut the cord here?
Not too much. I just want to say thank you to everybody watching and supporting us. If you like our stuff, you can follow me on Channel Fireball, where I write articles. I just dropped what I believe to be a pretty comprehensive, thorough metagame guide, as well as sideboard guide for Viserai for the upcoming Pro Tour. Otherwise, you can follow me at Tariq Patel 10 on Twitter. And love you all. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, just thank everybody for the support of Team Dragon Shield. It's been really cool that we've been able to kind of build a team around this thing and represent a brand that we all love as well. To effectively do the kind of pro team thing in this game, and people have really gotten behind us in that. So thanks to everybody for the support there.
My man Nick.
What am I to say?
That's it. That was perfect.
That's it. That's excellent. I like how Tariq's like, thank you so much. I love you. Matt's like, hey, the support's been great and awesome. And Nick's just like, what are we talking about? What's going on? I love you guys, all 3 of you. I can't wait to see you guys in France. It's going to be a good time. And true story, Friday is karaoke night. And I'm looking specifically at you, Matt Rogers, because you said it's going down. So Friday, lock it in. You all 3 are definitely welcome to join. So just I'll give you the details, but that's what's going down. All right, friends. Thank you so much for listening to the Instant Speed podcast, and to our sponsors at BCW Supplies and kfabecards.com, and all our patrons who are just awesome people. Thank you so much. Don't forget, you're not losing if you're learning. We'll catch you next time on Instant Speed.